first video I did in this series, Destroying Democrat Lies, was about the LGBTQ community and how Trump really actually is a friend and a supporter of that community. And it's extremely sad when someone, right from the beginning, we're talking probably since 1970, right from the beginning, or always really, when we didn't know him, when he wasn't in the spotlight. But this man has been in the spotlight since 1970. And all of a sudden, when he decided to run against Obama's policies and Hillary Clinton, the left lost its mind and called him and all of his supporters racists, homophobes, xenophobes, misogynists. There was a bunch of deplorables, a bunch of names that I don't think I've heard of yet, all for running against Obama's policy. Well, I want to tell you something about Obama's policies in regard to the LGBT community. First of all, regarding the African American community, I ask you, other than the Obama phone, what did he do? Did he improve schools? Did he go to Chicago and Baltimore? Did he go to these places where there are riots and there are gangs in the streets that are shooting each other? When it doesn't matter if a black person kills a black person, it only matters if a white person does. Those lives don't matter. Did he go to these places and talk to them? Did he go and talk to the children whose fathers are in jail? They're in jail because mass incarceration, as Let the Madness Begin put it, Miss and her husband, Mr. Mass Incarceration, did the whole 3 strikes and you're out law. So no matter what the crime is, 3 times you're arrested, 3 times you go to jail, you're in jail for life. Okay? So he supported her and he said, if you do not vote for her, I will take this as a personal insult. So these children have their fathers are in jail, which makes them look at themselves and say, this is my future. And I saw a documentary done by Vice News. I know that's far left, isn't it? But it was the truth. And the mothers are so depressed. They're on drugs and they lie on the bed and their children need medication and the children aren't getting the medication. And these very hardworking people, which are probably not getting paid much, and there aren't very many of them, go to the homes and try to explain to the mothers that the child needs the medication. But what hope does she have when LBJ passed welfare? The father couldn't be in the home anymore. The African American population in America, illegitimacy rate was only 10%. I think it was 30% for white people. White people was higher. And then it changed to 70% illegitimate after welfare. So that didn't help them out. And what hope does a mother have, or a woman have? A man that's going to stay with her and support her and love her? Of course she takes drugs. She needs to numb the pain away. I totally understand. And then the child gets lost in the crosshairs. He knows his future is where his father is, that he never sees. And these poor men from the school, they're good men. And they're saying, I'll take you to see your father. What hope do they have? Now, that would have been wonderful if Obama went to these cities that are run by Democrats, have been run by Democrats for 60 years. So you can't blame Republicans for that. And you couldn't, because Republicans are the party of abolition and Democrats are the party of slavery, slave owners, Jim Crow, and the KKK. It makes perfect sense. Go to these cities and talk to them and said, you could be something. You could be president, and take some of that money, sell some of those $8 million homes and take some of that money and put up scholarships. If you keep this grade level, you're going to get a scholarship to go to a college, a great college, and you can be whatever you want to be. I know what to say to them, and I know what I would do. I wouldn't buy all those homes. Each of his homes cost $8 million. I would do that. And the walls around his houses, as much as he hates walls, I hear are going up higher and higher. All these wealthy people, these wealthy leftists, are making their walls higher. Even the Pope, he raised it, a 200-foot wall. He raised it another 20 feet. And he said, bring in more refugees. We don't need to take in the Christian. He actually said that. Just the Muslim, not the Christian. Kind of takes you back. But he comes from a country that's Marxist. Whole different. There's a whole different story. So why isn't Obama instead, at the funeral of the Dallas 5 cops, he basically blamed the cops, and what happened? Someone else from that organization, that particular organization, went out and killed more cops. He invited them to the White House and talked to them and supported the work that they were doing. Going in the streets and chanting, what we want, dead cops. When do we want them? Now. Pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon. And the Dallas 5, one of them was a young black man who had just had a baby daughter. And he thought to himself, maybe I shouldn't go out anymore. I don't want to make the African American community mad at me. But then he said to himself, I have to do it. It's my job. I have to do it because I might save someone's life. Instead, he lost his own, and his baby daughter lost her father. But it was after the talk with Obama that he supported this, that more cops got shot, and more cops are getting shot. And the murder rate in all these cities after the riots ensue, and then we find out later on what the truth is, much later on. Instead of finding out what the truth is, and then if it's wrong and the person doesn't go to jail, there isn't justice, then go out and riot. Said, the riots are first, you burn down the city, you scare the police because they don't want to get indicted. And the people who call them are not white people calling on black people. The people who call the cops are the African Americans who need help. A crime is happening to them. They're calling the police department for help. And the person who's hurting them happens to be African American. Okay, same neighborhood. And the cops were afraid to get out of their cars. So what happened? Chicago was the tops as far as murders. And then Baltimore was the tops because Freddie Gray. And then we found out that Freddie Gray actually basically caused his own death. He was smacking himself around the car. And I believe he was on drugs. And we found that out much later. But Baltimore's now got the highest murder rate because of those riots. During Barack Obama's presidency, 7,500, I think it's 506 murders happened during his 8 years, and like 350,000 were shot. And now Baltimore's the highest. And then you've got Colin Kaepernick with a Che Guevara t-shirt and Fidel Castro socks, who, as you know, Cuba, the whites and the blacks are divided. Fidel Castro hates the blacks. It's the only people that he throws in jail, blacks. And Colin Kaepernick has these socks. And Che Guevara, not only was he a mass murderer, you're put before a firing squad for wrongthink, political wrongthink, just like Fidel Castro. He's very handsome, I'll give you that, Che Guevara. But he hated homosexuals. Not only did he rape and murder for wrongthink, political wrongthink. It's like Bill Ayers, who was from the Weather Underground. And Barack Obama started his first campaign, in his living room, said, to change this country, 30 million people have to die. Well, Che Guevara killed all the homosexuals. And the most interesting thing of all is that you've got those posters of Barack Obama that are done in the same design as the pictures of Che Guevara. He's the new Che. So if you're gay, why would you vote and support Barack Obama? Doesn't make any sense. I guess I'm talking about two subjects. I used to be a supporter of HRC, Human Rights Campaign. My cousin was the head of it at one point. And that isn't the reason why I supported it. I supported it because I had a beautiful singing teacher. He and his partner died, but he was as good as gold and would have sacrificed himself for me. And I never understood why he cared more about me and what was happening to me. And I said, but what about Arthur? And he said, don't worry about Arthur, he's fine. And nobody told me what was going on. But I could read it. I could tell. And the hate, the names that came out of Hillary Clinton's mouth that night, and the Human Rights Campaign cheered her on. Wait. We had lesbian neighbors that were the kindest, most generous people in the world. They were really good people. In fact, my mother would have rather have had Georgia as her daughter than me. She lost her mind when she thought Georgia moved away. She loved Georgia so much. And, my cousin, he's Italian, he yells like, he marched with Martin Luther King Jr. And the KKK put up wanted posters with his face on it all over the South. He marched with Martin Luther King. And he belonged to Vista. And then he belonged to the HRC movement. So these are good. The people I knew were good people. And I supported the causes. And every single petition all around the world. When Putin was at the Olympics and he didn't want gay people at the Olympics, I remember signing that. So Putin has got my name on a list of people that he doesn't like. And it's funny because there was never sign this to go to a country that was under Sharia law, where being gay is the death penalty, where you're pushed off the top of a building or you're hung hang you in Iran. In Surah 8, it says to let a shower of stones rain down on them until they're... And Barack has a cousin in Kenya who is running for president. And he, as a senator, as a junior senator, sent hundreds of millions of dollars over to get him elected and to change the constitution to Sharia, even though it's not a Muslim majority country. They're Christians, they're people who practice voodoo and witchcraft, or atheists. But everybody has to be punished under Sharia, which is cutting off the hand if you steal something, beating, flogging women in public who are disobedient. And of course, FGM, female genital mutilation, that's the law for every little baby girl. And stoning to death if you're an adulterer. So hundreds of millions of dollars coming from our tax money went to Kenya. Our tax money, it was supposed to be for foreign aid, but he used it to meddle in the Kenyan elections. And he meddled in about 6 elections total, which is a video I did that you might want to watch to get all the details. So there are 57 Muslim majority countries with Sharia law. And he supports, again, Macedonia. He wants to change. He sent money to the George Soros Foundation, who wants to change the country to socialist, a Muslim socialist nation. So he's supporting this. Yet the gay community, not one petition went to any of these Muslim majority countries. They kill you if you're gay. Not one. I used to sign them all. Anything they sent me, I signed. Not one. And they all supported Barack Obama because he's Black, he's half African. Does that, if you're half African and you're born a Muslim and you're raised a Muslim and you're supporting changing a constitution when you're an adult and you're supposed to be Christian, you say you're Christian, to Sharia, how can he actively doing this? He was actively doing this. How can a homosexual support Barack Obama and turn their backs on Trump, who for his entire life has supported gays, treated them as equals? They were allowed to come to his hotels and his resorts and to be couples, and supported the transgenders and hired them and treated them as equals before they marched, before the marches happened and they demanded equal rights, that they not be fired if they're gay, or they're not hired because they're gay. He supported this before the marches even happened. And he wanted to protect them even more because he didn't want anybody who's a terrorist to come into this country and kill them because they're gay. He wants to know who it is that's coming into this country. So there were 6 countries that he tried to ban temporarily, put a stop to. 6 countries that have no infrastructure. 6 countries that even Barack Obama pegged as terrorist hotspots, and to watch the people who are coming from these countries. There's no police. There is no ID system. There's no way to know who these people are. And if their intention is to come into this country and create terrorism, so they go to Allah and get the 72 houris, who are eternal virgins, paradise. And that's the way it is. He wants to know who these people are. And he just wanted to make it for a few months, about 6 months, so we can figure the whole thing out. And people are protected. He didn't just stand up and say, oh, because I want the gay vote, I'm going to say this to tell them that I want to protect them. He's been on their side. His entire life, he supported the gays. And there was an article, there's an editorial on CNN by a gay writer, which I cannot find anymore, that supported Trump. And in it is all I'm telling you about his sincere support when there wasn't an inkling. He gained nothing. When everyone was against this, he gained nothing. Way back when, by supporting the gays. He wasn't a politician. And there were a lot of people that might not want to go to his resorts if gay couples are staying there or are hired or taking. There are a lot of people that had decided not to patronize him. It wasn't the political in thing to do. See, there's a lot of political in things that people do just because it's in. Hate Trump, that's the in thing. Then you can belong to the group. And then you can get away with swearing at them. And you can get away with beating them up, as Trump supporters are beaten up all over the country. And I would be torn, every piece of flesh would be torn off my body in the state and the city that I'm living in. And they have no idea. They have no idea what's in the Quran. They just hate Trump. They just hate Trump for wanting to put that ban, which wasn't a Muslim ban. A Muslim ban would be, I don't care what country you come from. If you're a Muslim, you can't come in. England, you can't come in. You're white, you converted to Islam, doesn't matter, you can't come in. You're in America, a Muslim ban. You would have to get rid of the Muslims from America too, if it was a true Muslim ban. But it wasn't a Muslim ban. It was these particular countries that have an infrastructure that are hotbeds of terrorism. People who want to blow other people up to go to Allah. That's what these countries were. And only these countries. He wasn't just saying this to get votes. He wasn't saying, if he was saying something, you think that the people who support him are anti-gay, hate gays. Well, if he's saying something that is supportive of the gays, that he wants to protect LGBTQ people, including transgenders, who he said Caitlyn Jenner could use any bathroom in Trump Tower that she wants. And she voted for him because he's always been the supporter and a supporter of transgenders. He's not going to get the votes of people who don't like gays. You see, why would he say that? If you think all his voters are all phobic in all these ways, and he says something that's going to protect gays and support gays, and then they find out that his entire life he's treated them as equals and he believes in gay marriage. Before Hillary was against it, Obama was against it. Hillary, I think 2013, just jumped on board. She just jumped on board. He was always for it. So that means Trump, if his supporters really are all these things, then they would have jumped off the Trump train really fast and saying that he has supported Black people as well. I'm going to get into that in the next video because this is going a little bit too long. Do you realize? Think about this. There is no way on God's green earth, no way would I support that man if he was against gays. Or, there are racists in all colors and all religions. But for some reason, they say only white people can be racist. And that's kind of funny. Because that's not the truth. I'm going to end this now. So, one little kiss from Felina. A loving kiss. A non-racist kiss. A non-homophobic kiss. I'm not deplorable. We have to stop the hate. We have to stop the hate. Because we're moving towards civil war. And it won't be organized forces like the North and the South. It will be just people in the streets. Because it's happening now. If you're a Trump supporter, you won't get served. You get yelled at. You get beaten up. You get driven out of town. It's happening already. And the violent side, like the shooting of Steve Scalise by a Bernie supporter who's out there to kill Republicans. The violent side is coming from the left, not from the Trump supporters. So you got to take a look at yourself. Look at yourself. It might be in, and you feel powerful. And you may have been a bully in school, or you weren't a bully, but you wanted to be, because you knew you couldn't get away with it. But now the Democrat Party, the left wing, the Obama and Hillary voters have given you license to be bullies and to do everything you wanted to do when you were in school. Gives you license to do this. You're a bully and you need to be stopped. Stop it and grow up. Do you want a world full of blood? Or do you want a peaceful world that's free? Where you can roam streets and you don't get hurt either. Think about the world you want to live in. And I'm sorry that gay community is a part of this too. And I thought they were such good people. My experience, they were all good people. Everyone I've ever known. Except now. What happened? First it was equal. And now it's better than. If you're gay, if you're not white, if you're Muslim, you're better than. What happened to equality and kindness? I might not want to live the rest of my life if the world is going to be like this, because I know I'm not going to survive in it. I know I'm not going to hurt people. What an awful world we're moving towards. It's an awful, ugly, hateful world. It's not the Trump supporters. It's you.